Well, hello and welcome to Fun Fantasy FPL. My name is Harry.
And I'm Stephen Berry.
And on this week, before we get kick off, I'll remind everyone this podcast is about having fun, right? So we want to have some wild shouts in our comments, in our DMs. Please give us your thoughts on those ones. But yeah, if you're new to the podcast, the aim of this podcast is just to have a bit of a laugh, right? And to make you think of players and teams that maybe you haven't thought about in that sort of light, because at the end of the day, FPL is a game. So hope you can enjoy it. Plenty of stats podcasts out there, but we won't be doing those sorts of things too much anyway. But yeah, Stephen, why don't you kick us off? Tell us how your week's been just gone.
Well, it wasn't brilliant. The one thing I should say is New Year, not new us. We will be drinking still. Maybe not heavily on this podcast, but still, for us, part of having fun is also drinking, which probably isn't great. It says a lot about British culture, but nevertheless, here we are. Cheers. So
yeah, it's a mildly moist January for us, I think, rather than a
I'm
dry
using
one.
the term. Yeah, I'm using dusty personally, but I was going to try and make it a bit drier. But I think moist is probably going to be more accurate. But
Okay,
anyway.
great.
My game it wasn't brilliant. I had some. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I had some heartbreak. So the fact that Villa got 2 goals and Ollie Watkins wasn't involved in either of them is a disgrace. Ross Barkley, really? He was the Villa shout. Fuck off. Um, like, Crystal Palace scoring fucked Sanchez and Gusto for me. I captained Isak, but he ended up but he got exactly the same points as Salah. So, there's no glory really in that. I got 49 points, but I was burnt pretty badly by not having that Nordic guy that Norwegian guy's name I can't remember, and also I think Mbembo. I think lots of people have him, and I think he got
19
2 goals and
points.
assists, 19 points.
19 points, absolute hauling.
Yeah, a lot of people have him, fair enough, and I don't. So I think I was burnt pretty badly by that.
Yeah, his biggest haul of the season behind Cole Palmer, I believe, who got 20 points one of the game weeks. So, yeah, phenomenal. I mean, it just proves, I think, Southampton, I mean, they're not Premier League quality.
No.
So it is operation target Southampton, I think, for anyone that's playing. I mean, they could beat Derby's record. I don't think it's that far off.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
11
9
points, right?
points. I thought it was 9 points relegated by March.
No, they got 11. They got 11 points in the end.
11 points. Well, maybe it was 9 points by the time they got relegated. But yeah, I mean, they look like a bit of shambles. So, yeah, in terms of my week, so I got 62, just above the average. But I still had a little bit of a rank decrease down just outside the 500k. It's a bit of a shambles for me since my wild card, as I might have mentioned. And of course, the banker that I mentioned last week in the form of Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I did bring in, got 0 points, and now people are talking about him getting dropped for Connor Bradley. But my middling shout of Morgan Rogers scored. Obviously, Njai didn't, but I think he's a worth shout anyway. So I'm broadly happy. Obviously, Captain Salah, Palmer with 10. I also had Watkins, who got me diddly squat. João Pedro with a nice little goal against Arsenal, penalty admittedly, and then Kirkez. Kirkez is the hero of the week for me. Got an assist and the clean sheet, 12 points. Absolute, he's been a really nice player to have ticking along in my squad. And I benched Ahmad. I benched him again, and he scores 9 points. It was a choice between Ahmad, João Pedro, Sarr, or Kirkez as the sort of who I'd play out of those. So I'm broadly happy with the decision to bench Ahmad, but I'm sure we might cover it a little bit. But yeah, Man United looked a lot better, and Ahmad was at the centre of a lot of those.
I love a rogue shout as much as you know, but I think starting Ahmad at away at Anfield versus Watkins at home to Leicester, one of the sibs of the Premier League. I mean, there's no way in hell you're going to make that decision.
Yeah, and it kind of leaves me into a position where I'm kind of stuck for next week, to be honest, because I've got Ahmad, who's got home to Southampton, who we've just discussed. We've got Sarr, who's away at Leicester. Watkins is away at Everton. João Pedro is away at Ipswich. And obviously Isak, absolutely man on fire, and Wolves at home. And then Palmer at home to Bournemouth, and Salah away to Forest. And that means there is no room for Morgan Rogers, who's away to Everton.
Mm.
And so I'm really struggling with it. I mean, to be honest, I'm thinking about binning Saar, but they've got such a run. I don't really want to do that. But yeah, Stephen, why don't you tell us a bit more about the games you want to focus on from an FPL perspective? Maybe it will inform some of your transfer
Yeah.
choices.
Well, I'm gonna have a bit of a moan and talk about Brighton, Arsenal slash Arsenal Newcastle. Did you see that the reason why we lost against Newcastle was not because Eddie Howe's got Arteta's number, nothing to do with that. It's because the League Cup ball is different to the
Oh
Premier
yes,
League ball.
oh yes.
So,
It's I mean, it's not like both teams are playing with the same ball or anything. You know.
you know, I watched it now again. Kai Havertz, the 60 million down the drain song. That's not looking good. He missed obviously the header, but he missed loads of other chances as well. Um, we missed Saka. I mean, people knew we were overly reliant on Saka. That's really coming home to roost now. I think it's just putting pressure on the whole team. Basically, we're playing a very attacking high line still, and we just keep conceding. And we just can't outscore. Basically, we just don't look in good form. To be honest with you, it was sort of similar last season before we had that winter break. We just look a bit stuck, and the team just looks like, well, we're not going to win the league. We'll see how we do in it. The team again. The team looks like they've written off already. So what does that mean? I think from an FPL perspective, I think a lot of their players start looking too pricey. Basically, I still like Arsenal defenders overall. I still think we're going to end up
Really?
with one
I
of the best.
mean, that's what I thought you were going to say because I mean, I've seen a lot of people with double defence.
Yeah, they
Um,
have.
I would be. I mean, I think there's an argument to keep Raya. Gabriel from the Arsenal fans I talked to, he's been the one that looks the most off. And
Hmm?
I mean, could there be rotation? Could he get dropped? Could he get a rest and say, look, from Arteta?
No, because the only other option is Kivior, who is awful.
Oh yeah,
Why
he's
we
worse. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Arteta got a lot from Pep, but just signing very awful left-footed centre backs who are awful just because they're left-footed is one of them. He is just. I'm surprised. I don't think he'll be at the club. He might even go in January. Never mind.
Oh really?
End of
Well,
next
you'd have no
season.
backup. You'd have to keep him.
Yeah, but either way, Gabriel and Saliba. Even Saliba hasn't been as good as he used. Now that's
No.
from his very high standards. Don't get me wrong. Nevertheless, I still like them. There's a North London derby next, so we'll probably concede in that. Then we've got Villa at home. Actually, their fixtures aren't brilliant, are they? Tottenham, Villa, Wolves away, fine. City home. After that, it turns pretty nicely. Actually, do you know what? I've sort of talked myself out of it, actually. Maybe Arsenal aren't that interesting. Lewis Scully, he's a bit of a risk with minutes, but he must be very cheap in the game, I would think. And do you know what? I think, actually, out of all the defenders, he's probably played the best out of the back
Yeah.
four, actually. So, I mean, again, his competition is Zinchenko. Ben White's out for a while, so Timber won't go left back.
Mm.
So Lewis Scully, he must be. I'm guessing he's 4 million or something. I can look that up now, but yeah, I guess just in general, Arsenal don't excite me. The only other player maybe who does excite me a little bit is Jesus because Havertz has permanently must have dropped himself from the team after that performance against Newcastle. He has to have done. So maybe Jesus. We still create chances. Look, we're still Arsenal. We're still going to finish second or third and all that sort of stuff. But in terms of like the price of the players, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking to an Arsenal fan today, and he was saying how this sort of result has been coming, and that the
Yep.
team looks a bit knackered, and you have an incredible first team, but the defense, the depth in the squad has always been a problem. But the other thing is that I watched the Arsenal Newcastle game. Compare Havertz to an Isak, right?
Yeah.
Isak was always in the box, always trying to make those runs. He's a traditional number 9. Arsenal just don't have that. And the thing is, you've kind of papered over that by having a Saka who just creates absolute pandemonium when he cuts in and when he goes and all the rest of it. And people double up on him, and that creates space for like an Odegaard or for a Havertz or for any of those other players to score. But when Saka's not in that team, it does
Yeah.
look like a very ordinary. And I really say that with a level of caution because we are going to play them next week, and probably it's going to be an absolute riot of a game. But I think if you lose to Man United at the weekend, sorry, we should timestamp this. We're recording this on the 8th, so it's just after the Arsenal-Newcastle League Cup game yesterday. Today is the Tottenham-Liverpool game, where no doubt we'll get spanked. And then obviously it's the FA Cup at the weekend, game week starting next Tuesday. So look, everything could change. You could absolutely smash Man United and come into that North London derby with full of energy, full of confidence. But I think if you lose that game, I think there's a real chance that Spurs will do you over. And I say that with zero expectation of that, because we're just Vibes FC. We just love the mate.
Yeah.
We don't actually play well, I don't think, in lots of situations. But yeah, I'm of the opinion that I think one Arsenal defensive asset is probably, I think I might drop Gabriel this week, but I don't know. He's got a goal in him, and Spurs can't defend for shit, so
I don't know if he's a sell, because I think, like I said, a lot of people have brought him in
drop
already.
him just to the bench, just bench him.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
maybe. Obviously, depends on your team. I mean, as you know, I forgot about the FA Cup. So when you said Man U at the weekend, I thought, mate, is that how little he thinks of Spurs? That he's calling them Man U now. But you are right. I've said consistently, Arteta needs a trophy. That's now gone. But the League Cup, that was probably his best chance. Let's be frank. Again, another loss to Eddie. Loss to Eddie Howe as well, and again another one where, okay, we've had worse losses to Newcastle, but it just didn't sit right. I do think, and I'll let you talk about Liverpool Man U, I do think that result does actually mean that Arsenal can lose that game now. I think if Liverpool had gone through them and we lost like that, it's just unacceptable. But the fact that Man U, now I'll let you talk about that, and the fact that Man U now have this false dawn around them, that does help. But yeah, do you want to talk about? But either way, yeah, Arsenal, don't buy them. Is basically maybe Jesus. Jesus is the only one I would consider right now. Basically, Lewis Scully is also midfielder in the game. He's 4.5 million, not worth it. So Jesus is the only one I would consider for now. But I'm not recommending Arsenal players.
Sure. Okay, cool. Well, I wasn't going to talk about the Liverpool Man United game, but I will just say this: Man United have had lots of these false dawns. I'm not sure whether to believe this one. Simple. They just got to kick on. And I know it's real simple, and I know it's real, like, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville level commentary, but they've just got to back it up with the next performance, because if they go to Arsenal and get absolutely trounced, you're not gonna see anything result out of it. You're gonna get the players crushed again. I think the situation with Rashford is an absolute clown show around it. I think the manager's playing it the right way. Everything that Rashford. Do you know what I thought about this earlier this week? Rashford has got a whiff of Dele Alli, and I mean that with all of the. No, I mean it with all of the care in the world, because obviously Dele Alli went through something horrendous. Yeah. Clearly, something is going on with Rashford in his personal life that he really needs to sit down. It's almost like an Aaron Lennon story to a certain extent, right? Like he clearly is not happy playing football. He's going out and seeking all these other vices and doing things and going to America when he's not picked for England, not staying back in training. And the other thing is, you've got kids like Garnacho. Garnacho is a kid, like he's younger. Ahmad, all these players coming through, and they'll look up to Rashford and go, and when the manager says, no, you've got to be on time, you've got to do this, you've got to work in this way, you've got to train this way, they look at Rashford and go, well, why should I? He's on 300 grand a week and he's behaving like an idiot. Like, there is clearly something else going on. So the two messages I'd say is, Rashford clearly needs an arm around the shoulder, and needs to think about himself, take a break from football, I don't know, do something to get himself back in the game. But the second thing is, I would hold off on Man United. Any assets you own, keep. I wouldn't be buying. But that might be contradicted by what I'm going to say with my rogue shouts later. But anyway, but no, the game I wanted to talk about, first game I wanted to talk about is the Fulham Ipswich game. So firstly, it's the holder of the most obscure record ever, which is the quickest time between penalties in the Premier League. So there was the Raul Jimenez penalty in the 70th minute, and in the 71st, Liam Delap's penalty to make it 2-1. That's the shortest time between penalties awarded in the Premier League. So
good stuff.
Obscure stat, great for your pub quiz knowledge. But the thing I want to talk about there is when I was listening to it, like, and like, see the result. Obviously, you'd said last week Fulham play big teams and they turn up to big teams. I was sitting there the whole game going, Stephen's right, which was extremely distressing, listeners and viewers, to even sit there and contemplate this idea, right? But the second thing I'd say is it does show that I think Ipswich have got a lot of fight about them, and I honestly don't think they're down. I don't think it's done. I think, like I said at the beginning, I think Southampton are gone, but I think it's a real straight fight between Ipswich, Wolves. I guess Everton are down there as well. Crystal Palace, I suppose.
Palace and West Ham can't be ruled out, no.
But and then and Leicester. Sorry, forget Leicester. And Leicester's probably the weakest out of those lot. But I mean, I really want to see Ipswich survive, just because they show a level of guile and cunning, and they show a level of fight that I really like. And if they do go down, there's going to be a lot of suitors for a few of their players. Omar Hutchinson, Liam Delap. I think those two players are the pick of the bunch. Liam Delap looks like a proper old-fashioned centre forward. Love what he's doing.
He generally looks really good.
Really, really good.
Was it his second penalty? Great pen.
Yeah. He's a great player. And he's 21 as well. I mean, he's a future England centre forward, isn't he? I think he replaces. I'll say this with a great deal of care, because Danny Murphy has said the same thing. I'm agreeing with Danny Murphy an awful lot recently. He replaces Harry Kane, I think. When Harry Kane gets to 36, right, and he's entered into his 12th competition or whatever it is, and his ankles are still made of paper, I think Liam Delap starts over him. Or maybe even just deputises, goes as a front two. I think he can play to that level. So the reason why I want to highlight it is because if you've got Liam Delap, I'll be keeping him. I'm really gutted I don't. And the other thing is that with Ipswich,
5.6 million, 3.1% owned. I mean, that's pretty good. 8-11. When he scores, he gets hauls as well. He tends to get 1 or 2. He's done well this season.
Because they're goals that matter in those games, and that's the thing about a relegated team. This is why I love. Well, one of the reasons why I love FPL is that you can go for you learn about teams that maybe you wouldn't otherwise know and learn about. And with Ipswich and with any team that's sort of facing relegation potentially, their strikers, if they score, they're more likely to get bonus points because it's more likely to be impactful on the game. So if you're able to get like a Cunha or a Jamie Vardy or Liam Delap, like they're going to have greater chances of getting bonus points. And if he can score 15 goals a season.
The next 3 fixtures though are Brighton, Man City, Liverpool.
Yeah, it's less than ideal, but I'd start him at Brighton. He's at home to Brighton, and then he's got the 2 difficult games. Szmodic scored to get away at City. City's at home. City haven't looked amazing. I wouldn't mind starting him there. And if you bench him, it's 5.6 million on the bench, and it's not at the end of the world. That's the thing I think you've got to think about. Like I've got the benching headache now because I've thought about that maybe a bit too much. But I think Liam Delap is an absolute buy. He's not in my bankers, but I definitely would look at him. Fulham, is there merit?
They don't care about what I'm telling you. So annoyingly they got a point, because I'm still saying they're going to get 3 points out of those 3. They got West Ham and Leicester next. They got 1 out of the 3. They don't care. Marco Silva seems to care. I think it's just more he just likes having a whinge because he just can't motivate his players who just want to leave the club.
Did you see him? He went mental when they scored the equalising penalty. The players went to celebrate in the corner, and he went absolutely berserk. Saying, "Why are you celebrating? Just equalise against like the 19th in the league. Like, fucking get the ball out of the net and get it to the front because you want to play." And then they concede a penalty like a minute later.
Because Marco, they drew past us higher than Fulham. You're stuck there, mate. Unfortunately, Sorry, his interview really annoyed me. Like again, just one of the worst. Like basically blaming the ref when. First of all, VAR got it right, so like, who cares?
Yeah.
And then actually, if we want to be very pedantic about this, because Raul did that slow walk up, about half the Fulham team were in the penalty area anyway, so it should have been retaken. If you want to be really pedantic about this, Mr. Silva. Sorry, that really irks me. But either way, I told you, Fulham players do not care unless they're playing a big team. They just don't care.
So this is my question to you, Stephen. I've got Robinson. I was hoping for a clean sheet. Ipswich at home. He's now got quite a good run. He's got West Ham away, Leicester away, Man United at home, which obviously is easy, unless this false dawn comes true. I mean, should I be looking to sell him after that? Because then he runs into a relatively difficult patch between there and.
I'd sell him now. I wouldn't buy him until they have Man U and Newcastle Forest. That's when you actually want to buy him. I'm telling you, that's when he'll actually play pretty well. This is who they are. As Sanchez, this is who we are, mate. It's who we are. Honestly,
this is the story of Fulham.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but my rogue shout, and this is probably even by my standards pretty rogue, is actually Nicholas Füllkrug. And part of the reason is that it's West Ham at home to Fulham next. West Ham, Lopetegui again, another game he has to win. Actually, didn't he cancel his press
No,
conference or something? So
no,
he
no.
might.
Sorry, Stephen. We
Is he
must
already
we
gone?
must keep up to date. He is
He's
gone.
already gone.
West Ham dismiss Lopetegui, and I assume Graham Potter's coming in, so that should be fun.
Yeah, fine. It doesn't change what I think. West Ham has to win that game anyway. West Ham have to win that game anyway. Fulham don't care about that game. None of the players care. Fulkrug, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I fell in love with him at the late. It was the Euros. I fell in love with him at the Euros. He's been injured. He's 6.7, so he's not the cheapest. 0.1% owned. He'll start every week. I can't see Danny Ings taking his place. And then he's got Fulham and he's got Crystal Palace. He's then got Villa, Chelsea. But so it is, even my standards a bit out there, but he's my rogue shout for the FPL.
So I'm going to do my next game, and then we can come back and title these all off, because as per usual, Stephen, you've mucked up the schedule of where we're going. I know, viewers and listeners, it does seem that we have a schedule. We don't often stick to it though. So unfortunately, so the next game I want to talk about is Wolves against Forest. Yes, I'm going more obscure. So my conclusion of this, and I text you this afterwards. Forest top 4. Should we stop laughing, and should we actually be really
I said
possible?
this 2 weeks. I said this 2 weeks ago, Barry. It's done. It was the last pod I mentioned it. It's done. I can't. I said to you, I can't see why it wouldn't happen.
I mean, done is a very,
I mean, Barry, you just said I think Southampton are relegated. So that shows how little you're willing to put. I mean, to say I think Southampton are relegated when they are the most confirmed relegation.
Yeah, but Stephen, I don't
outside of Sheffield United a couple of seasons ago, this is the most obvious. They are definitely gone.
Stephen,
in recent memory,
there's still half a season to go. At that midway point, anything can happen. It's the Barclays Premier League. Well, not the Barclays Premier League anymore, but it's the Premier League, greatest league in the world. Anything can happen. But the point is that
they've won 5 out of 5. Lots of clean sheets in that as well.
But the reason I want to
same
flag
points as Arsenal in the same games played.
The reason
Arsenal was saying we're going to get a dip. Chelsea have gone off the boil. Man City have beaten 2 mediocre bad teams. Yeah, I think it's done for them. I think they've got it.
So you've taken half my reasoning for pointing it out, which is that there are a lot of teams that are underperforming this season, namely my team. Your team are doing okay, but Man City, Man United, Newcastle look hot, but they're mid, well, they're sort of just outside right now. Villa the same. So there's an opportunity there for Forest to do the absolute unthinkable, and that is to go from being relegation candidates, and I put them in that relegation candidate, to being Champions League. And I mean, if they manage it, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to look at this result is because going to Wolves and winning 3-0 is not as easy as you think. Okay. Plenty of clubs have struggled, especially on a Monday night. Right, a Monday night fixture. It's cold. It's horrible. That's a derby for them. Midlands hate each other for reasons.
Yeah.
Right. It is. It's not as simple as it's at, and they look. Honestly, I watched the highlights and I watched. Putting the Wolves didn't look anywhere near the game, and I know that obviously they didn't have their star man Cunha, but Strand Larsen's decent. They got that guy in the middle, Pedro something or other.
Wait,
yes, he's top dollar. Apparently, Barcelona, if they can sign him, are looking at him, but they can't sign their own players at the moment. So who knows? Yeah. So it's. I don't think that result is as credited as it would be. I mean, if Man United went there and won 3-0, I know it's a real lazy argument, but that's a really, really big result for me. And it shows that this team is not only going to challenge against the big boys, beating Liverpool away, beating us at home, challenging all the different teams in and around it, but they're also beating the smaller teams and the teams at the bottom. They're getting the business done. And I just think that they look a lot more of a complete team. Yeah, they haven't got other competitions to worry about. They're playing Luton, I think, in the FA Cup at the weekend. So probably, and it's at home, so they could probably play a week.
They'll rest players. They got Liverpool at home next. So
yeah, exactly. So I think the Liverpool game. I said this last week. I think the Liverpool game is going to be an absolute banger. Right? I think that's a genuinely amazing game. Tuesday night. Under the lights, city ground. It's a loud, loud place to be. So my conclusion is this: from an FPL perspective, I think double Forest is definitely reasonable. Morgan Gibbs White, glad
Only double. I was gonna say what the
treble.
spine.
What would you?
Yeah.
Who would be your treble? Who would be your treble?
I'm now committed to hating Chris Wood, even though I'm sticking to that now. But to be honest with you, Chris Wood, probably Aina, although Williams, I've got Williams personally, is also fine. Or
Yeah.
I've forgotten the other guy. Is it Williams? Yeah. Anyway, whoever their left back is going to be, basically. And then the hard question is actually which one out of the Langer and Gibbs White and Hudson-Odoi maybe doesn't start enough maybe, but which one out of the Langer and Gibbs White do you go for? And that's the actual difficult question. But I think Triple Forest
I would go for
is
Gibbs
nailed.
White. I would go for Gibbs White only because then I would be forced to start him every week because he's 6.4 million.
Yeah, yeah. I think Triple Forest. I mean, they just keep playing well.
Yeah. I mean, a Triple Forest is definitely a reasonable shout in my book. So those are the games I want to talk about. What games do you want to talk about?
I'm actually going to gloss over them pretty quickly because I don't think it's super interesting. One thing would be urgent caution. One on Man City, West Ham. West Ham are bad. Haaland's first goal. Honestly, what did you say? Sufal has him in his FPL team. He must do.
Yeah.
Just the way the defense disintegrated, but that was incredible. I wouldn't be panicking about that guy
How to get
just
Haaland
yet.
in? Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be panicking about that. He's still 50 million. He's still too expensive, and let's be frank, West Ham is terrible. Also, Liverpool's the same. I wouldn't be panicking there. They were always going to get at some point complacent. I think that was actually probably a good reality check for them. You
Yeah.
drew at home to Man U. I don't think Slot needs to say much actually. I think the players themselves will
Yeah.
be absolutely furious with themselves. And Maguire should imagine if Maguire won Fulham to
Maguire.
death.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
My,
did you see the reaction of all the Man United players? You see Andre Onana?
yeah,
He went down like he'd been shot. Like they
yeah,
all knew how big of an opportunity that was. And I mean, to
yeah.
be fair, it did bobble, and I did see a few people go
He's
for
also a
jerseys
centre
on
back.
that.
Let's be frank. He's also a
Yeah.
slab head. You
Like
know,
if
so
he buries that, it's like a defining moment in the season. It's not
yeah.
but he wasn't expected to score that. It would have been a nice, like a cherry on
Yeah.
top. Like
Yeah.
unreal.
But Liverpool have been brilliant all season in the Champions League. I think. Do you know what? They got a point. It was against Man U as well. I think they're going. I don't think starts to say anything. I think the players could be like that was unacceptable. And
Mm.
I guess the interesting one actually is Trent for Bradley actually, because if Bradley starts as the Liverpool right back, what I mean, he's probably I don't know, he's probably quite cheap. That'd be a nice
Yeah,
little bargain. But
he's
basically,
4.8,
I
I think.
wouldn't. We'll put it. So don't panic with Liverpool and don't panic with Man City either. Would be my 2 cents there.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see at the weekend because I think Liverpool have got like Accrington Stanley at home in the FA Cup, so there'll be mass rotation there, so that we won't learn anything from the FA Cup weekend. But yeah, I mean the looks that Virgil van Dijk was giving Trent on both the goals and in future opportunities. I mean, I never want to see anyone look at me like that ever. I think I'd wither like a flower on on a hot day. Like it'd be awful. But yeah, it was. I agree with you. This is what I was going to say. So cool, right? So we'll talk about some players. We mentioned a few players there that in the kind of games that we talked about. So I'm going to go. I mean, do you want to go first? You mentioned your rogue, so why don't you
Yeah,
reiterate that and then talk about your middling and your banker for
yeah.
this week?
Nicholas Fulkrug. I mean, again though that is, but it's not rogue for a reason. My middle one is I realize I haven't talked about defenders enough. So my middle
Mhm.
one is a team that doesn't actually keep a lot of clean sheets. That's why it's middling. But he's a player that we all love, and that is the one and only Matty Cash. He is low
The
owned.
Polish
He's
international, you mean?
the Polish international Matthew Cash, yes. Villa will keep all clean sheets basically. Villa, as mentioned, have a very very nice run coming up against Everton next, who can't score. Arsenal, who also aren't that great at scoring either. West Ham, Wolves, not great scorers. And Matty Cash, we know he's a great fullback. He will. I'd honestly, I'm going out on a limb and say I think he'll definitely get at least one assist. I'm going to say at least two out of that run, even if they don't keep clean sheets. He should get some returns, and he's pretty cheap. And then
Yeah,
in terms of
interesting
my
enough, just Stephen, just quickly on this,
yeah,
because I don't think you've noticed this, we might have done, and if it is expert analysis. he got a bonus point in the game against Leicester, and he didn't get an assist. So he actually came away with 3 points, and I've only ever seen that happen once before, and that was to Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he's putting that many crosses into the box.
I was fully aware. I was fully aware of that, of course. Yeah, but definitely knew that.
4.4 million, 1.2% owned. It's a cracking shout.
There you go. So yeah, Matty Cash, and do you know what? I might do that now.
Go on, do it, Stephen. Do it.
I've already got Digne.
Oh, you can't go double Aston Villa defence, but I'm sure the viewers and listeners would love you too.
I need to get rid of Aït-Nouri though. Do you know what? I've taught myself into it.
Double Aston Villa defence.
Matty Cash, welcome to the team.
Stephen.
So yeah, Aït-Nouri, it's been a pleasure. I've had fun owning you, but it's time to cash in, as it were.
Oh my god.
So, and then my banker, I'm still backing Watkins. I think, as I said, Villa have got a great run. I'm still very much supporting him. We got Everton next. And then one of the bankers was actually Eze. Eze is back. He's playing Crystal Palace have a very good run. And he's another player, I think we mentioned it before. It doesn't really matter how good or bad the team is around him. They will do well. Eze, also, I get a bit like Mavididi, who scored at the weekend. Like again, I can feel that little tingle that a big haul is coming from him at some point. So Eze is my
tingle. I forgot about the little tingle.
6.6 million and 8.2% owned. So
if you didn't listen to last week, firstly, where were you? But Stephen announced that he has a tingle in his testicles from Mavididi, who plays at Leicester, and then when he scored. We had a brief exchange, and he said the tingling is still there. So there's more to come from this wondrous player.
That's a great more to come. That's a great pun, by the way. Fair play. I'll give you that.
Good, nice, good work. More visuals for me to deal with. And your banker, sorry, I missed it. What was your banker?
Eze and Watkins.
Eze, of course, yeah. Sorry, Eze. Yes, Eze got an assist this week, and you're clearly an amazing player. So I'm going to start with banker for comedic effect. Okay. So my banker is going to be someone we mentioned in this pod already, Raul Jimenez. Now, let me talk you through it.
Who, by the way, was my mid last week, lest we forget.
Yes, it was. So I just think he's doing very well. And I think that they've got a great run. And I know you said that Fulham are on the beach all the time when they're playing the smaller teams. But if Fulham are going to score, it's probably going to be him involved somewhere in there. He's on pens, which I like. I was worried a bit about his minutes I've forgotten the other Fulham striker's name. Everyone owned him last season. He's got a weird obsession with fishing. Google it. You don't know what I'm talking about.
Muniz.
I'm glad that was the trigger that got you there. Google his interview about fishing. It's very strange. So Raul Jimenez, I think it's worth looking at as a banker. My middling, and it's similar to you, defendering way, is look at a Palace defender. Now, I don't mind goalkeeper, defender, whatever fits your team. I think that they obviously got a great run coming up, but Munoz probably is the pick, not Munoz of Fulham, Munoz of Crystal Palace. We've had that confusion before, if you remember. But I also think
Fernando will remember that as well. We've done that. Yeah. I think we've done that 3 times.
We have done that 3 times. But I also think their goalkeepers are worth a look at. Henderson, 4.5. Fabianski's injured. If you have the extra cash, I think it's a perfectly reasonable transfer to go for. And my rogue shout is a man that you know as Hernandez, and that is. Now, let me talk you through this. Someone once said to me that if Fernandez
I don't know if I want to listen to this.
Yeah,
honestly, I think can we end the podcast now?
No, Stephen. As much as you want to, that's not going to happen. So Bruno Fernandes, right? He controlled the midfield in Liverpool's game, right? It could be a false dawn, which is why it's the rogue shout.
Big statement.
He is very annoying.
He controlled the midfield at Liverpool. That's a big statement.
I know. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. So he looks good. And I think that if he's not being a dickhead, which is 90% of his personality, he can be a really good player to own. And he's 8-point-something million as a midfielder.
He's 3 million more than Amad Diallo, who has 8 points less than him overall, despite playing half the games. if you have Diallo, why on earth would you get Fernandes? What's the point?
Well, what if you don't have it?
Why would you double man you? But why? But you just go mad. Why would you? There's honestly no reason. A man plays further forwards. There's literally no reason in the world to have that man in your team, other than penalties. Is about the only advantage he probably gets over Ahmad. But is that worth 3 million? No.
So Stephen's got his opinion there, folks. Why don't you give ours? Give yours. Sorry. I'm going for Bruno.
Another thing that not people to panic on was there was a lot of penalties at the weekend. So everyone's just like, "Oh, have all the penalty takers." Like that was that. There's always one of those games, one of those game weeks a season. It's happened. Like don't just bring in all the penalty takers.
Okay. Well, look, I've given my opinion there, Stephen. Welcome to disagree with it. So yeah, we'll wrap up the podcast there. And you may have noticed that we've dropped the ball on the questions this week, so we do apologise. The last question I believe we asked was about Boxing Day top scorers, which shows how long ago it was, but admittedly Christmas and that. So the answer to that question was the top scorer on Boxing Day for the Premier League was Harry Kane with 10 goals. He loved scoring on Boxing Day, but also Spurs generally had quite good fixtures on Boxing Day. I seem to remember once with Southampton and we won 5-0. So well done if you got that. But this week's question is around the Man United Liverpool game, which we've mentioned a few times. So before this game, it had been nearly 10 years since Man United had scored at Anfield.
Is that in the league or across all comps?
I think that was across. You're questioning me now, Stephen. I'm going to say it's all comps, and probably it's going to be wrong later. But yeah. So the question is, who was the last Man United player before the game just gone to score at Anfield? It was in 2016. If that gives you some helpful hints. But yes, the last time that Man United scores in 2016, who was the player to score? And as a real funny fact, Kobe Mainu was 13 years old as well, which is hilarious in itself. So who knows whether it's going to be a false storm. But yeah, my biggest concern this week is about a benching headache. I'm not sure whether to make any transfers. I probably won't. Stephen, you've already made a transfer. Any other transfers you're thinking about? Players you're concerned about?
Odegaard is a tombstone around my neck, but I'll keep him for the North London derby. I'm captaining Captain Isak. I've got Isak and Gordon. We didn't mention Newcastle, but again, they're on form, good run. I think everyone knows that. I think Gordon's the most transferred in player, I think, from memory. So nothing really innovative there. But yeah, no, that's this is Salah. So actually, it'd be interesting with Salah. Actually, are people gonna back him as a captain against Nottingham Forest? Probably, but I think this could be the time where finally Salah could come in.
Yeah, it is a time to attack the captaincy, I think. But I think something I said to my little sister when she asked me about this is captaincies are not for differentials, is my view. Captain with the herd and use your other players as differentials. That would be my ethos. But as a very conservative manager, that's
my ethos is everything is a differential. So
yeah, having a double Aston Villa defense is the differential. But anyway, so that concludes the pod. I hope you've enjoyed it. As my number one advice to you is, if you're listening to this before the FA Cup weekend, do not make any transfers, unlike my dear co-host here, until the weekend is gone. Injuries can happen, things can go wrong. Trent could be sold to Real Madrid. Who knows? Like, there are loads of things that can happen between now and Tuesday. So please do hold fire. I will be doing so as well. Please give us a like and a subscribe or wherever you're listening and watching. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We are trying to do a bit more there. Rita continues her march. She nearly sold Haaland, but I believe she is now, wait for it. It's going to take a bit of time actually for me to get there, but I believe she is in the 130,000.
Well done, Rita.
And we were in the car and she was saying like, we were discussing whether to sell Haaland, and I was like, I'm not sure, what do you want to do? And she was like, let's keep him. So this was a Haaland, this is a Rita decision to keep Haaland. She's 175,000 in the world, so congratulations to her. Thank you for putting this Rabble podcast together. Anything else, Stephen, before we go?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy your game week.